Good afternoon and welcome on this, would you believe it, snowy afternoon. What is going on? We were just in like 70-something degree weather, and now I've been driving around all morning long all over Elizabethtown, down to Corydon, Indiana, and back to Brandenburg. Meade County is where it's at. And hey, listen, despite the snow or whatever it is coming out there, I am coming from the Messenger Studio, which is the #1 place for all of your sorts of info. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's the most amazing place ever. Hey, I've got Alec G. Stone, the people's lawyer, estate planning, trust, wills, probate, deed preparation. The man and his law office is on point. We've got Dunkin' Donuts out of Corydon, Indiana. We will meet all of your needs when it comes to coffee. Eric Hoagland, general contractor, man. The guy does it all. I use him for everything. Epoxy, countertops, bathrooms, you name it, he does it. Journey Church, man, that's the place for faith. And last but certainly not least, Meade County Christian School. I'll tell you what, education on the next level. Sports teams, we're getting transportation in. This school is just booming. We've got a wait list. Enrollment is opening up in January for a little bit of a thing. But anyways, nevertheless, it is good, and we got great partners. So welcome to the show. If this is your first time, I am not your guest. I am your host, Ryan Franks, with the Leadership and Business podcast, where I am bringing you fresh content, letting you know as the business owner, or recently what we've been diving into is that if you are not the CEO, CFO, COO, and you are a staff member, or you're trying to get noticed, or you're trying to build influence and credibility, I want to connect with you on how to be successful, which can mean a lot of different things. Sometimes, yeah, I know, right? Everybody wants to be successful a little bit, but the question is like, what does success look for you? Some people are just like, hey, it's fame, it's money, it's the ability to travel, it's the power to buy, which is one thing that I've been learning over the last 10 years, is that it's not about how much money you make, it's the ability of how much power you have to purchase or do ownership with. So you can make $1 million, but if you got 1.2 worth of, expenses and bills and everything, you're 200 grand in the hole. You got to have more coming in than going out. And so it's the ability it's the power to buy. It's the purchase to buy. So for a good example, you're like, hey, what does that really mean? That means that if you're here making 50 grand a year, did you know that like $1 is compared to like 8,500 rubles over in India, which means that you could be here and you could send money there and you could have all kinds of different assets protected. I'm not suggesting that you go out and do shell companies, because we want to do everything with character and integrity, according to the word and what the Bible says. But you could go do things over there and have more assets simply because you have more power to buy. But anyways, nevertheless, what we're talking about today is if you have had to have a hard conversation with a team member, a crew worker, an employee, where you are sitting down with them and they are underperforming. And sometimes one of the main highlights, one of the main things where a hard conversation is, or when a hard conversation is coming, is usually when somebody says, hey, listen, I need a raise, I need a raise, I need a raise, I need a raise. And you simply say, okay, well, awesome. Well, since raise is based on performance, why do you feel, you don't want to like belittle them or degrade them, but why do you feel like this is the time to have a conversation about getting a raise? And a lot of the times I hear this throughout, some of the business. And I think today is like Entrepreneur Day, which is really cool too. So like, yeah, entrepreneur. So if you're a small business owner, this is for you. This is for you today. You're going to love this, right? What happens when you have a team member who's like, I need a raise, and they say it's because I got bills, and you remind them that it's based on performance, and then you're just like, but I can't afford to not keep them, but I really can't afford to give them a raise because they're not performing. So what happens when you have to have the hard conversation? What happens? Like, how do you deal with that? How do you keep somebody, or how do you kindly let them know that, this might be the end? And, as I've said before, the answer that you can always give somebody when looking for a job or wanting to be with you is either yes, or not right now, or not with us, right? Because it has to be a good fit. But what happens when you're having to have the hard conversations, or what Craig Rochelle says is developmental conversations, right? If you have to have a hard conversation and you've already arrived at the place where you're letting somebody go, here's what I would suggest doing before you have to get there, right? You never just want to like walk in one day and just be like, hey, listen, this isn't working out. I'm really sorry. This is a bad fit. It was my fault. I shouldn't have put you in a position to fail. No. Have this conversation before you have that conversation, because if you can develop them and invest in them and it goes well and it becomes a great fit, that is a chemistry that is unreplaceable, right? And sometimes it's crazy to think that you may not be able to find somebody like that. Everybody is replaceable, and I think that is something that does need to be said. CEOs or any crew members or team members, there are moments where you will think, or some people have thought, I am untouchable. I cannot be replaced. I bring the amount of talent. I bring this. I assure you, everybody is replaceable. If you bring more grief than you do results, I'm telling you, you've already got one foot out the door and you don't even know it. And your CEO or your boss is looking to not have that door hit you on the way out. So here is how to help both parties when it comes to having a hard conversation or a developmental conversation when a team member is not delivering. Remember how I said somebody comes and wants a raise? Are you delivering? Are you performing? Because if you're not, one thing is going to come. It's not going to be a raise. It may not be being let go or fired, but it may be having a hard conversation. So first of all, before you go to that person and before you have the meeting before the meeting, which is a huge phrase that changed my life, you're always having a meeting before the meeting. You're wanting to lay out the vision, the mission, the values, the morals. You're wanting to get the buy-in. There's always a meeting behind the meeting. First of all, you have to, as a leader, ask yourself, is it me? Do you have enough self-awareness to know where you are strong and where you have opportunities? That's a really nice way of saying where you're probably not any good. And the question is have you surrounded yourself with people that are? Because you can't be good at everything. And if you are good at everything, then you're going to try to do everything. And if you're doing everything, then the ceiling is going to stay right here. You're never going to grow. So you got to delegate, right? Not delegate too fast, but you got to delegate accordingly. But with a little bit of self-awareness, the pre-meeting, the meeting before the meeting, and your leadership and your organization, the first question you have to ask yourself is it me? Am I the reason why that person is not performing, right? If you can't find yourself getting to a place where you can have some honest self-reflection, then it is absolutely a pride thing going on with you. Because if you will tell yourself that I am nothing special and that this is either favor from the Lord or I've gotten a gift and I've made a talent out of it and I've pursued it, I've perfected it. Obviously, there's something that you have to bring to the table. But remember, though, like it's always going to be a team effort if you're going to do big and better things. So is it me? Do I have all the facts of what's going on in the situation, or am I just looking at it from my perspective? Do I have the full perspective? Do I have the full scope? I love the word scope. Some people don't use that word. Can I see all the way around? Like, is there anything that's going to come up in this conversation, not just to protect you, but because if you have a self-awareness moment in the middle of a hard conversation, but it's on you and you're the one that's called the meeting, that can get a little interesting because they're going to leverage that against you next time. They're going to be like, well, you called me in here because I wasn't performing, but it really sounds like you didn't know how to lead, and therefore we're having this moment. So you want to make sure that you're ready for the meeting, not just to protect yourself or your organization, but to legitimately think, can this relationship, can this coworker actually work out? Because if they can, we need to know. And so you need to ask yourself, is it me? Do I have the facts? Do I have the full perspective? Do I have the scope? And then the second thing is so important. This is the most important thing you can ask yourself before going into a hard conversation meeting because it's one or two things, right? It's either a systems problem or it's a personnel problem. Did you hire accordingly? Did you train them? Did the systems that you implemented, that you have at your organization, are they good? Do they over communicate? And we'll get to some of these attributes here in a couple of seconds. But like, do you have a system in place, structured to where there's no reason for them to fail? Like, have you absolutely dummy-proof the entire thing? And saying "I told them so" does not count. That doesn't count. Do you have like a job description? Do you have like a booklet that has all of your has all of your policies, your procedures, what you want out of it, what you're expecting, deadlines, calendars? Like, you want to leave nothing to chance, nothing to guess, completely dummy proof. So because if your system is bulletproof, it's going to be a personnel issue. That's how you can narrow down to having, like, is it time to have a hard conversation? Do I have a system in place? Do I have all these other things going for me? Is there any reason why they should be failing at this? And if the answer is no, then bring them in and have a hard conversation, because then you know that it's in fact them. If you're on the other side of the table and you have some things that you're not doing, you're under delivering, you're not performing, you're asking for a raise, you're bringing more problems than solutions, you got a bad attitude, and you're asked to come in, you have every right to be called into that meeting. And giving you some perspective if this is a job that you really want. And please, whatever you do, both sides of the table, whether it be the boss or the person or the employee, please never make a rash, irrational decision based off emotion. Always take a moment to open it up. Always take a moment to breathe, bring something to the table, be stern about it, but remember that they're still a person, so that you still need to do kindness and compassion, but it doesn't mean that kindness and compassion always leads to a person retaining their job, right? You can still love somebody right at the door, but just don't make any harsh decisions just because you're upset with something that happens, right? Be the bigger person. So the systems, were they trained properly? Were they put in the right position to succeed? This is actually really interesting. One of the self-awareness questions you need to ask yourself is, did you put them in the right seat? Often people will get on the right bus. Your bus is the business. They're getting onto the bus, but you need to now place them in the right seat, because if you have the right person on the bus but in the wrong seat long enough, you will be convinced that they never should have been on the bus, when in reality it should have been you putting them in the right seat for them to succeed with the resources to move forward. And if it's a situation, if it's a position where they need to be creative to bring solutions to problems, then they need to know that this is a creative role where they're going to receive things and they got to find solutions, and that is the job. And you can tell if a person is going to be creative or not. You need to not just say, oh, hey, tell me about your family and tell me about your dog and tell me about your house and where your work experience is. You need to bring in like real life situations and put them on the table and say, what would you do, right? Those are important things. Making sure they're on the right bus, making sure they're on the right seat, right in the right seat with your organization, so that they will thrive and not accidentally be dealt a formula for failure. So another thing that you have to do is, have I set the tone? Have I vision casted? Have I over communicated? Have I followed up? I know that anyone, especially in positions where I have sat or I have had the opportunity to lead and serve, I know that the one thing I hate doing the most is following up, because I feel like I am nagging or borderline micromanaging, and that is just not the case. You can always follow up. You can say, this is what I need, this is when I need it, this is where I need it, and I look to follow up on Thursday around noon. So when you come in at Thursday at noon to follow up, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't over communicate, you don't vision cast, you don't let them know what's going on, and you come on a Wednesday and you say, hey, how's it going? You come in on Thursday, hey, how's it going? You come in on Friday. Regardless, the follow-up thing itself is not a bad thing, but the fact that you're having to do it because you didn't set expectations and you didn't set the culture and the tone of the atmosphere, now it's starting to feel like you're just simply nagging them, and people get so easily irritated so quickly today, since we live in a microwavable culture. So anyways, those are a couple things to have the meeting before the meeting. And so what happens when you do have to have that meeting? Like, you have set the tone, you've had the self-awareness, you've asked the right questions, not just the questions, but good leaders ask the right questions. What happens when the system is there, but the personnel is not? That is when you call in a person for a developmental conversation, or a hard conversation, as probably you and I have both grown up hearing that term. That is a hard thing, obviously, because they call it a hard conversation, but this is where you need to document it. This is where you need to have like a performance review, a performance issue, and you can't just call somebody in for the first time and say, hey, we're having a hard conversation. You need to go out to them throughout and lead and train them and say, hey, listen, today you were 15 minutes late, today you were 20 minutes late, you're having a statistic, a pattern, a routine, and that is also something to think about. Is when somebody says, oh, well, I heard something. It's like, okay, well, does that mean that it's true? Doesn't mean that it's not true, but you're looking for a pattern and some statistics and a history of an evolving poor behavior, right? So if one person's late one time, you can't say, hey, we got to have a hard conversation. No, it's got to happen like a couple times, but you got to document that. Otherwise, it's he said, she said, and that can get super dicey, right? So anyways, here are a couple of things before your hard conversation that are red flags with a team member, a crew member, something that you can kind of like get a sense, like, maybe the weather hasn't said like it's going to rain, but when you walk outside and it's dark and it's gray and you can smell the moisture. Oh, that word gets me every time. I can't stand the word moisture, but moisture nevertheless in the air. It's going to rain, right? It's like the dogs start losing the mind. Cows start like lying in the pasture. I don't know if that's a real thing or if that's just something that's been made up that we all believe, but like cows lying down, whatever. Here's a couple of red flags to be looking for from a team member who's about ready to encounter a hard conversation. First of all, bad attitude. Ooh, the bad attitude. The bad attitude. You know what? Listen, there is anything, yeah, I know, right? Get that air horn. It's true. If there's anything that is the worst thing, I would rather take someone who is borderline incompetent. Again, something that you can't really work with in the industry or whatever, or the ministry or the organization. I would have somebody who is incompetent over somebody who is just naturally talented but has a really bad attitude. It ruins everything. They actually said that a person with a bad attitude in the office will make the rest of the productive people 36% less productive. Think about that. You're getting close to 50% of your productivity going down. I bet you if that was dollars, which technically it is, you would step in and say like, hey, you got to turn this around. I don't know how to change somebody's attitude. I'll be honest. I've been doing this for about 18 to 20 years. If somebody just naturally doesn't choose joy and naturally is not ambitious and doesn't want better things in life, I can't make somebody want that, right? For years, I was trying to cut weight, and I knew that I should, and I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew how to do it, eat right, run, all that stuff. But until you're just like ready to do it, until you've like been to the bottom of the bottom and you're tired of being tired, it won't matter, right? So you can't turn somebody's bad attitude around. You can't buy them flowers and chocolates and be like, hey, I'm going to try to like happy you up today. So listen, if somebody's got a bad attitude, think about the departure. Think about the departure. It's somebody who does the bare minimum, right? I'm just clocking in 9 to 5. I just want my check. That's not what you're looking for. Those that just simply underperform, right? They do not deliver. They overpromise. They underdeliver. They underperform, but they're going to want raise. That's a hard thing, right? Somebody who's emotionally insecure, if you have somebody that just cannot emotionally keep it together, that is somebody who's just simply immature. And I believe you can actually work with that and develop them, but that's going to be a process. So, count your costs there. Somebody who brings drama into the office or somebody that consistently is toxic. Sometimes people don't know how to speak outside of gossip, right? That is one thing you have got to shut down in your office or in your church or wherever you come from or whatever you're doing. If you have people in there just running their mouths just because they don't know what else to do, shut it down and excuse them. I'm not saying kick people out of church, right? Because that's not what I'm getting at. But I'm talking about if you are doing a for-profit, you're selling a product or something, and you got somebody toxic in your office, they're gone, man. That's done. Somebody who makes excuses all the time. Well, I didn't get this done because this and this and this and this. Problem solver. Under promise, over deliver, but nevertheless deliver. So if you got somebody that doesn't understand the difference between reasons and excuses, what is a reason that this didn't get done? Somebody passed away. I had to go be with them, but I called you or I text you, hey, something's come up. I'm a little unsure. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not going to be there right now. Family emergency. Listen, you give me that text. Okay. I got you, man. Life happens. But, I didn't know about this. I didn't get this. This wasn't my fault. It's sports. Why there was a poor attendance. For years, I had somebody over the last 18 years, there's been a time where I've had just the worst, most poor attitude person who always just gave an excuse for not doing their job. It's like, oh, well, this is going on in the community. This is going on. I don't have this. I don't have resources. I don't have funding. I don't know how to do this. And then I'd sit and tell them how to do it, and they wouldn't do it, and they just sit in their office all day long. And I was just like, okay, that's fine, man. Like, and it just came to what it was. It wasn't a good fit. Whatever the case may be, excuses and reasons. Somebody who blames, just kind of what we just talked about. Somebody who blames everybody for everything. As a leader, please don't do this. Please don't do this. Please don't do this. Please don't publicly call people out, especially on social media. If you need to talk to somebody about something, about, underperforming, take them aside and be like, hey, listen, this is where we're at. This is what I need from you. Let's set a plan. Again, I know you're going to hear me say this word. I need you to deliver. I need you to deliver, right? And they may say, hey, listen, dude, I'm overwhelmed. I don't have the time to do this. Maybe it's a poor management thing. Maybe you're putting too much on their plate. Maybe their job description is so fully blown out of proportion right now that you got to go back to the table and consolidate, right? That's a work in progress. Both people can come to the table on that. I totally understand that. That's all right. But somebody who's just like, I'm going to publicly call you out, or when you're scrolling through Facebook and somebody randomly says to the person who was on 1638 who pulled out in front of me, I just want you to know, dude, we're never, that's just you going on social media, ranting, fishing for support. And those that support you are also wrong, right? So just because your friends lick your wounds doesn't mean that they're good friends. Anybody who undermines leadership, you got to sniff that out. If you're a business owner, you need to sniff that out. Sniff that out, undermines leadership. And the last one is this, somebody who causes division, gone. Gone. Hey, even the Bible talks about that. Church, business, whatever. You got somebody in there causing division. calling it, like Jesus told me this. No, he didn't. That's not how the Holy Spirit comes into our lives to monitor and inspire and encourage, but most importantly, control our behavior, right? He tells us how to behave. Like, he sets the thing in. So if somebody's just like, oh, hey, God told me to do this, and it's causing division, and that there's a righteous scene going on. No, they're not. No, they're not. I'm so sorry. That might offend a bunch of people, but you're basing things off emotions, not the biblical word. Okay. All right. So good leaders when addressing the tough conversations. Here we go. You're just like, dude, get to the tough conversation already. Here it is. Good leaders when addressing tough conversations or developmental conversations require, first, you need the truth of the matter. You need to know that change is going to be required. So this is what you got to tell them. Here's the truth. Here's the truth. The truth is that this is what I've asked you to do. And, and there's a list. You've made excuses. You haven't met deadlines. You're underperforming. You're not delivering. This is the truth of the matter. Whatever it is, no matter what reason why it's not done, it's not done. And it's not been done. And there's been a pattern from, like this date to this date. We have an issue. And for the sake of the team, I need this to be done. Otherwise, we're going to hurt the whole team. The second thing is that you then share with them change is required. Change is required. And you know what they're going to say to you? They're going to say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I'll never forget Miss Taylor, junior and senior year English. She would say, if you're sorry, you'll change. And I was like, and I was more, just immature, just thinking like, well, that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And that kind of ticks me off a little bit. And I don't want to hear that. And then as I grew older, I'm 40 years old and I still remember junior, senior English. I don't remember anything that we ever talked about other than the poems we were supposed to get up in front of the class and recite. And I totally got stuck on like one of those Winter Wonderland roads less taken thing. I don't know how that went. But the thing is that I'll never forget that she's just like, if you're truly sorry, you will change. That's exactly what I'm saying. The truth of the matter, change is required, but then you need to let them know. See, most people just stop there and they're like, okay, I'll change. And they're like, great, I need you to change. Nope, we're only halfway through. You got to give them next steps. You have to show them as a leader how to improve. And if they need additional resources, like, hey, this is the podcast. This is where I want you to be on Sunday mornings. This is what I want you to do. I want you to come in 5 minutes early. I want you to sit with me. I want you to sit with your supervisor. I want to make sure that we're tracking. You got to give them next steps on how to improve. Otherwise, you're just throwing fuel on the flame. It's just going to get worse. It's going to get worse. They're going to try. They're going to be exhausted. They're going to be in the same spot. They're not going to know how to change. And then you're going to expect more. They're going to try to do more. And you're going to be at the same situation 3 months down the road. And you're going to be firing them. And they're going to be like, I did everything you asked. And you're going to say, you didn't do anything that I asked. And then it's a he said, she said, blowing, yelling match. And then everybody leaves mad. You get a couple bad reviews on Google. Everybody loses, right? So give them next steps. And then the one thing that leaders are supposed to do, follow up. 80-something% of all that you're going to do as the main person is follow up. But you got to follow up for the next decision. Hey, Ryan, you're underperforming. Here's the truth of the matter. Change is required. Here's your next steps. And in 14 days, in 2 weeks, we're going to follow up and we're going to see if this is going to be, if are you going to remain with the team or are we going to need to let you go and make a change for the team, right? So here is a couple things. I was even talking with some of my general managers today out in the Duncan world, and they were just like, hey, listen, I think we're trying to build a really good crew, but, I've just got, once we get here, they're not really performing, and I'm talking about the ones that are out of state. But listen to this, though. Here's how to avoid these hard conversations as a leader. 1, hire well. Have a hiring process, a 2-step hiring process. Somebody below you interviews a person. You have the final say the next day. Bring them back. See if they even show up. See if they show up ready on time. See if they show up, prepared, dressed accordingly. The second thing is train proficiently. Don't just take somebody and be like, hey, awesome, cool resume. You're hired. And then you throw them into the workplace and you're just like, good luck, perform. No, you got to train them. Take 2 weeks, take a month, whatever your job requires them to do to perform, there should be a sufficient amount of training, and you're going to spend payroll on that with the idea that this may not work out. That's why you want to hire accordingly, so that when you're training and investing in that person, because that is what you're doing. You're investing in a person. You're not just hiring a warm body. And if you're hiring a warm body, you can't be mad when you get warm body performances, right? So as a leader, you're required, it is your responsibility as the business owner and the leader to be reading and to be listening to podcasts and attending conferences and networking and finding out how to be better. Because if you are a 5 out of 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst, if you're a 5 or 6 or 7 leader, you're always going to hire leaders that are less than yourself. You'll never hire 10s because 9s and 8s are not going to be attracted to the business. So you've got to be developing to push that ceiling so that you are an 8, that you are a 9, so that you can attract. And when you're pushing the business like this, people will be attracted to come, and you'll say, well, I can't afford them. But yes, you will, because you will have developed your leadership and your business to the next level so that you can attract better people. Because ultimately what you want to do is you want to delegate this and do less so that you can sit and vision cast and dream for the next level of your business. So you're going to hire well, you're going to train proficiently, you're going to manage expectations. If you do not, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Their expectations are going to be here, right? Or yours are. Your expectations are going to be here. Their expectations are going to be down here. And all of this that doesn't get met is going to be full of disappointment. And here comes your hard conversation. So you need to manage their expectations and do it well. You need to over communicate, let them know what's up, set up benchmarks. When you say, hey, this is your goal, this is you, boom, 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 boom. When we get to this benchmark, and you got to celebrate it. Celebrate. You put them out there. Hey, man, like Ryan's doing a good job. Tristan's doing a good job. Steve's doing a great job. All these people, like, let's give them a round of applause. Like, you're not doing them just to like shower them and, make their head big. You're letting them know, hey, like, dude, you hit it, man. You're new at this, or you've been here for a while. You hit this benchmark. Let's go. And so you got to celebrate this. So set the benchmarks and celebrate the wins. How do you create an atmosphere that fosters success like this? This is where a lot of businesses never get. So I'm just going to tell you, you as the leader, you've got to be honest, you've got to be intentional, and you've got to be able to receive healthy, constructive criticism or healthy feedback. If you can't take feedback and you get all mad and bent out of shape because somebody's calling something out for like what it actually is, they're bringing truth to the matter. Yeah, I say this so kindly. You got to grow up. You got to grow up. You can't be running around at an older age and still unwilling and unable to take constructive criticism. You have to smile and say, hey, thank you. Because if they're telling you this and they're doing it out of love, receive it because they want you to win. All right. So last but not really least, what is the mentality and the mindset? If you as a leader have a mindset of like, I'm going to lead, I'm going to manage, I'm going to boss people around, you're going to fail, right? Everybody's going to hate you, dude. I hate to say the word hate because that's a really strong word. They're not going to listen to you. They're going to dislike you. They're going to gossip about you. They're eventually going to leave you, right? If you have the mentality, listen, it's servanthood leadership. You're not going to boss them around. You're going to serve them. How can I help you? Jesus introduces everybody and their dog lost their mind over this. They're just like, no, you lead from the front. You don't lead from the back. You tell people what to do. You don't go do it for them and show them how to do it or do it with them or get in the trenches. And that's exactly what I'm saying. Listen, if you want to do something, you want to show somebody how it's done, you get in there and you don't boss them around when you're in the trenches. You just say, hey, listen, hand me that. All right, now you do it. Awesome. Hey, phenomenal job. Let's do it together, right? And you work with them. You grow that relationship. You grow that developmental establishment there. So it's servanthood leadership. Jesus was proactive. He was proactive. You got to be proactive. If you're passive, so will your business be, right? Always be willing to lead, but lead with humility. Do not be prideful. Do not be prideful. Good leaders look for this. Good leaders look for needs to be met. How can I meet your need? Don't focus on what you want, but what other people need. Good leaders look for problems they can solve. Be proactive. Be patient. Don't be proactive and passive. Be proactive and patient. Don't rush the process. Trust it and invest in yourself. Look for opportunities you can seize. Leadership is not a position to hold, but it's a position to develop. Never leverage your title for power. Well, I'm Ryan, and I do this, therefore I can do this. No. I'm Ryan. I love my team. I'm going to serve them. I'm going to bless them. I'm going to celebrate them. How can I help you be better? How can I give you the resources so that you can be better? Because when they're better, your business will be better, okay? All right, here we go. Leaders are to develop character, competency, and consistency. Let me say it again. Leaders are to develop character, competency, and consistency. And if you do that, you will build chemistry within your team, because if you're too big to serve, then you will be too small to lead. That is the Leadership Podcast. That is the content that I'm bringing for you today. So listen, we're going to be back in the beginning of December, It's going to be great. There's some good tools and resources I want to bring to you, lay it on the table. But again, I just want to thank our supporting partners, the Messenger Studio, for always cranking this out, crushing it. Alex Stone, Meade County Christian School, Journey Church. We've got Dunkin' Donuts and Eric Hoagland. Amazing people. Check out their businesses. You will not be disappointed with their services. I promise you that. You can take it to the bank. You will love everything that they have to offer. Journey doesn't offer services. We love Jesus, but everybody else got a good thing. Hey, thanks for checking in, and I will see you soon on the Ron Franks Leadership Business Podcast.